Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Dynasty Boardroom Dynasty Football Podcast. I am your host this evening, taking over hosting duties for John. My name is Thor Akerley. I'm a wetland scientist by day and a fantasy football enthusiast by night. I play in 4 Dynasty leagues at the moment, 4.5, I'll say. We've dating back to about 2012. So I've been around a while, and we also have with us, I'll let you guys introduce yourselves.
I'm John, taking the night off from hosting, giving Thor a try here. I'm a civil engineer and bridge inspector by day and fantasy football player in the evenings. So I've been playing a while, only in 2 leagues this year, 1 Dynasty and 1 redraft. So hopefully I can get at least 1 more championship out of those.
And I'm Foz. I am the stereotypical history teaching football coach in real life. And I am in the same redraft and dynasty league as John. I've won that dynasty league 2 times since its inception 4 years ago.
That's right. But just wanted to make sure everyone listening saw this. Yes, Foz is on there twice, 2017, 2019. But 2020 will be me right here. So, again, we're going through a dynasty mock draft.
That's for Thor.
Yeah, that's me. It's coming.
It's on the way.
So we're just going through a dynasty mock draft that we've been doing the last few weeks. Our last 2 podcasts were rounds 1 through 5 and 6 through 10, and we just completed rounds 11 through 19. And in this episode, we'll be going over the later rounds, 11 through 19 specifically. And we'll dive into a few players that we find interesting here, talk about them a little bit more, and then just kind of talk about the general strategy at this point in the draft a little bit. Again, this is 1 quarterback. There are 3 wide receiver spots in this league, 2 running backs and tight end, and then 2 wide receiver tight end flexes. Is that correct? Or one wide receiver tight end, 1 running back wide receiver. Yeah. So tight ends definitely have a little bit more value. Wide receivers are a little bit more valuable than they would be in a standard league as well. So with that, let's dive in. Round 11 is where we're starting off here. And my first note here, a guy that stuck out to me. Well, I guess we can run through the draft. We can run through each pick quickly. It started with Irv Smith, then went Paris Campbell, James Conner, Slayton, Jalen Hurts, Gaskin. I mean, you can see it. And then, so that started on the left there. And the first guy that stood out to me was Irv Smith. I actually took him, I think, like the moment, a few minutes after Rudolph signed with the Giants, which was a huge boost to him. Rudolph, played about 80% of the snaps last year. They did run a lot of double tight end, but Irv was not a full-time player. There were portions of the season where he did get a full workload and did pop in a few games, but overall the numbers weren't super impressive. But on an efficiency basis, he was top 10 in yards per target, yards per target and yards per reception, both important efficiency metrics. So I'm excited to see what he can do with a full workload. Should still be plenty of pass volume there. The Vikings aren't a good defense. They shouldn't be an overly competitive team, and they still lack pass catching options aside from Thielen and Jefferson. So I think it'd be pretty reasonable for Irv to emerge, and definitely a popular sleeper last year, but didn't really break our way. So hopefully that athleticism and size plays out a little bit better for us this year. You guys have any thoughts on Irv Smith?
Definitely good for like where you drafted him too, like for your team. In that 11th round, you haven't drafted a tight end yet in your startup, and if you're gonna wait for tight end value in your startups and get Irv Smith in the double-digit rounds, that's as your first tight end. That's exactly what you want to do.
Irv Smith is not going to be going this late from here on out, just because he's not behind anyone or sharing the snaps with anyone anymore. So you definitely got really good value on it just based on timing. So if you're in a startup, make sure if you want Irv, you go a little earlier than the 11th round on him.
Yeah, to me, I think he's like just below that Dallas Goedert, Hunter Henry tier.
Sure.
So maybe a little bit early. You could probably get him a round or two earlier. Or
Yeah.
probably need to at this point.
Right.
And I wouldn't draft him higher than that either.
Right.
Like don't draft him in the 5th round or the 6th round.
There's still enough decent tight ends on the board that could offer the same sort of upside as
Right.
Irv.
And probably more.
Right.
Right. And then John, you made a couple selections, one in round 10, not here, and round 11 where you took Connor and David Johnson.
Yeah.
Connor may be a little risky. I mean, at this point in the draft, I understand he might sign somewhere and have a decent sized role, but what's your thought process there? Do you think they both can remain starters this year and potentially beyond, or are they dust?
James Conner, I don't think he's going to be the starter. Change of pace, some type of committee. Maybe he'll be like a training camp signing when a player gets injured. That's the only chance I see him of getting starter touches for the whole season. But I don't think James Conner will be the starter on any team. But on this team specifically that I drafted him on, I already have Dalvin Cook, Aaron Jones, and Ezekiel Elliott. So I have 3 locked in starting running backs. So I don't need James Conner to be like the best running back on that team. And I definitely didn't draft him to be the best running back. So I felt that was a pretty safe type of team to draft James Conner, where I don't need to play him, but there's going to be weeks where I will play him. Then David Johnson, they signed him for a 1-year, $5 million contract, which told me at the time when I drafted him that he was going to be the primary carrier. And Mark Ingram doesn't scare me that much in the backfield, but Philip Lindsay does actually a little bit more than Ingram. I don't think they would have brought him in if they didn't intend to use him, but they've done the same thing with Duke Johnson. So not really sure how to feel about it. Again, David Johnson, what team did I take him on? That's a little risky at my running back because I do have just Jacobs and Javonte Williams, who, depending on where he lands, he could be in a timeshare. And then Raheem Mostert is sort of the starter, but it could change weekly in San Francisco, and who knows if they're going to draft someone. So David Johnson might end up having to be a weekly play on that team, which is definitely a bit risky, but with the amount they paid him, I'm okay with it. And he actually had career high rushing yards per carry last year at 4.7 yards. So if he can continue on how he finished off last season, I'll be pretty happy with it. But I just don't see that happening. So this late in the draft, the running backs are a little thin, and I wanted to add another one there since my room was pretty tricky.
On James Conner, he is going to have like Carlos Hyde's career from here on out, where like he's going to be the 3rd or 4th man into every backfield he signs with, no matter where it is. So would you be happy if you got like Carlos Hyde Seahawks or Carlos Hyde Browns type of like work here? Because that's what I feel like that's his ceiling at this point in his career right now. If he doesn't have a team and the draft hasn't happened yet, like he's in trouble.
Yeah, but like I said, this team, I don't need him to be on the field on my roster or in my starting lineup every single week.
And when you do start him, you're probably getting low floor production.
Yeah, and that's going to be bye weeks or injuries, and hopefully, like, not hoping for an injury, but he's the kind of guy that will take over a backfield in an injury situation.
I think you should have drafted all the other 3 running backs that were drafted after him in this round. One man's opinion, though.
I do hear what you're saying, though, John. I think Connor has like the Carlos Hyde ability where he can be the workhorse for a few weeks, but I think at this point in his career and with the injuries he's had, he probably can't sustain a starting job. But you didn't pay that price for him, so that's good.
And he will never be paid by an NFL team to be the guy ever again.
Right.
He's done.
He missed his chance.
He had 4.6 yards per touch last year, which was 41st among all running backs, and a pretty good Steelers offense. But that just wasn't getting it done.
That was worse than David Johnson.
Yep.
So.
So the next pick that stuck out to me and I thought was a really good value was Foz 2 taking Jalen Hurts here.
Yeah.
I think he could have gone around 10. I really was hoping he would follow me at Thor 3. I was definitely going to take him there in case of any Deshaun Watson fallout. But Hurts, got his opportunity last year towards the end of the season and really shined. Two games over 300 yards passing, and Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray-esque rushing floor. To me, it wouldn't shock me if he ends up vaulting up into that kind of like mid QB1 tier this year. Assuming the Eagles get him a little help with the offensive line and weapons. Foz, what was your take on Hurts here?
I mean, he was my target with this team after I made that KJ Hamler pick, like coming around the other way. Just the rushing floor is so crucial in fantasy football. You have to have it. And just with what Philly has done in the, the offseason, they haven't been one of these teams that have been looking for a quarterback and then they traded down in the first round to where are they at now, 12. So they're in prime position to add Jalen Waddle, Devonta Smith, maybe even Kyle Pitts if he drops out. If he drops, I don't think he will. But they're in prime position to add another attacking option to that offense, or one of these elite offensive line prospects out of there like Slater or Darisaw. So the Eagles are going to build around Jalen Hurts here, and just the way my fantasy team is built here on Foz 2. Obviously, I waited on quarterback to get into the double-digit rounds, and to have Jalen Hurts there at round 11 with this core of a team with so much, a good balance of young studs and established veteran, talent. I think Jalen Hurts right here on this fantasy team is just perfect. And, I think it solidified Foz 2 as one of the top teams in this mock draft for sure as a startup option.
Yeah,
very,
that was
very
a nice spot to get your starting quarterback for sure. I was jealous.
As you mentioned, they traded down in the first, so that secures him as the starter, in my opinion.
Oh yeah.
Agreed. I think they're very likely to take a receiver in the first round. If Chase is there, I think they go him. But if not, probably, like you said, Devonta Smith or Waddle. So the next pick, I accidentally closed the show sheet.
Tylan Wallace.
Yeah,
Tylan Wallace. I don't know a lot about Tylan Wallace. I know he's a rookie. I know he's intriguing for a number of reasons, but John, I'd like to hear your take on Tylan Wallace. What led you to select him here?
So he broke out as a sophomore, first of all, so young breakout age. So that's typically a good indicator.
Not as good as Rondell Moore.
No, but I picked him after Rondell Moore. So, but yeah, so broke out as a sophomore for 1,491 yards and 12 touchdowns. So pretty good. Then followed it up in 2019 with 903 yards. Hold on, I'm confused. Yeah, 903 yards.
Right. Looks like you missed a few games.
Yeah, missed a couple games. Then in 2020, he had 917 yards. So 3 really solid years in a row. I just really thought that profile matched well with a successful fantasy wide receiver. And on that team, I have a lot of really good wide receivers already. But where we start 5, I wanted to have another really good potential upside guy, especially with Diggs, Hopkins, and Allen Robinson all getting a little older. So I felt that I stretched this team's window out a little bit.
Yeah, it looks like he didn't test. But I agree. Those are some pretty intriguing metrics there, especially with a sophomore breakout like that. That sophomore having a big sophomore season at that age 19, is really important and really indicative of future success in the NFL. And he's got pretty adequate size at 5'11", 190. Not quite at like a Jamar Chase level, but size-wise, but he's not far off.
Seeing 6 feet some places as well.
He's very similar to Rondell Moore. No, not Rondell Moore. I mean Rashad Bateman.
Rashad Bateman.
Yeah. Rondell Moore is like 5'5".
Yeah.
Yeah. So I liked Tylan Wallace's young breakout age and 3 consecutive years of so 2 years of 900 yards and then almost 1,500 yards in his sophomore season. So that really just stood out. And I believe he tore his ACL at the end of the 2019 season. And that cut it short. That's why he had a shortened season.
Okay.
So I'm pretty sure he was going to declare, but did not, and that's why he ended up playing for the 2020 season.
Well, I like the pick. I'm in on it. So do you guys have any other general thoughts on this round, or any picks that you liked, or anything specific about the things about this point in the draft, or anything how you're approaching the draft?
I think Mike Gesicki in round 11 was pretty decent value. I like that one. And I think too, like Tariq Cohen for John and on his third team. Just in this running back dead zone right here, where you're kind of like either grasping at like high upside rookies or like trying to find veteran diamonds that may still have something in the tank. Like that Tariq Cohen pick looks pretty good.
Yeah, and especially again on that team where I'm kind of grasping at straws to find my second weekly starter potentially. If Javonte doesn't end up as the starter, then I'm going to need to have a plug and play type of guy, and it's going to be a rotation. So,
oh yeah,
yep.
Owen fits in.
I also kind of like the Bryan Edwards pick by me. I'm not a Henry Ruggs guy. John Brown is 31 and seems to hurt his hamstring at least twice a year. We really like the profile coming out last year, and I think there's some opportunity there for him to emerge this year on a team that really doesn't have a true alpha X receiver, and hoping that he can maybe begin to show what he's capable of this year. So I'm kind of interested. I kind of like that pick.
Don't worry, the Raiders will draft someone really fast again. So
I say you're looking at like Rondell Moore at like 16. We're drafting the mid-teens there. That's what you're gonna get, and it's gonna just obliterate Bryan Edwards' value.
Yeah, and that goes to the disclaimer that drafting Raiders is risky. Like John is a wild card. And how and Mayock too, right?
All right, I'm gonna uncover round 12.
All right.
So I forgot who I picked in this round. Let me see.
I'll run through this. I'll read through this round. So I started with J.D. McKissick, then Dyami Brown, Aaron Rodgers, Corey Davis, Amon-Ra, St. Brown, Jonnu Smith, Kylin Hill, Joshua Kelley, Duke Johnson, Jeff Wilson, Darrell Henderson, and Mike Williams. Those are the picks.
I like it. So John Kelley was someone or Josh Kelley was someone I liked last year coming out. I thought he had some opportunity, would have some more opportunity behind Eckler. Someone that hasn't really been able to shoulder a full workload. He did have some opportunities, but really kind of flopped, and then eventually found himself in the doghouse. But Foz, what did you see here with the Kelley pick? Did I kind of summarize it there, or are you hoping that he can capture a little bit more work this year?
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. Again, this is this running back dead zone area, right? Where I was having trouble. Like I like my Darrell Henderson pick was like my hate pick of this draft so far. But like with Joshua Kelley, yeah, I mean, just hoping to see a little more. I feel like last year the Chargers situation was so terrible with the O line and like Herbert running for his life, and like you had a coaching staff that was getting jettisoned and they weren't winning games and things like that. It was just a disaster. And I feel like they've invested a lot in their O line, and they're in a spot where they're probably going to use some draft capital on their O line.
Could get Sewell.
Yeah, they could. That would, and that'd be good. And who's their coach? They got some defensive guys. The coach, right? They Staley from Brandon Staley from the Rams. I can't remember who they hired as the OC either, but I think it's another Shanahan guy. So running back with Kelley, regardless of where Eckler is. So just hoping to get a little bit of upside there with Kelley if Eckler goes down, and Kelley can shoulder some of the workload, because they should. I think they would believe in him, but they have new coaches, so who knows?
Yeah, I'm sure he'll get some opportunity. And speaking of opportunity, John 3, I think this was before Corey Davis had signed with the Jets, but the Jets paid Corey Davis a good amount of money.
Yeah.
Good chance they'll see a lot of opportunity there.
3 years, 37.5 million with 27 guaranteed. That is a pretty decent payday and one of the highest ones in free agency this year. So
I completely missed that signing. It's honestly news to me that you just said that. I completely missed it.
Yeah. So they paid him to be their number one.
Yeah.
But that being said, they made a couple other signings. They got Kylin Cole in. Not going to be a huge part there, but Jamison Crowder and Denzel Mims are the other two of note. They also have Josh Doxson, another Dynasty darling at some point. So I mean, Davis last year had a pretty solid year. Not quite breakout, but what did he have? He had
980 yards and 5 touchdowns.
A good year as a second fiddle for sure.
Like, especially in a low volume passing offense.
Right. And I mean, the Jets will be bringing in a new quarterback. So no one in that offense has chemistry yet. So why can't it be Corey Davis? New head coach. It's a new team. Corey Davis is not starting off in a different spot than anyone else there. So he could be that number one receiver on that team. Probably won't even need to be to find his way into that lineup for John 3, because I already have a pretty solid receiver room. But the upside of a wide receiver 1 on a potentially better passing team that is projected to be down in a lot of games, that felt like a really safe pick. And I just wanted to have him on my team. I do think this was after the signing, because I don't think I would have added him if he was not on a team. Maybe I would have, because there was a couple decent teams that could have picked him up. So, but I guess this feels about right.
Yeah, I really like the pick, and I think people kind of wrote him off after a couple down years to start his career. But he was like, it can take guys a while, especially for players that come out of small schools, like Corey Davis, even though they have really good athleticism and size. But he was, really efficient last year, as part of a really efficient offense. But he was number 8 in yards per target, number 21 in yards per reception. The Jets are obviously changing quarterbacks, but he, had some really impressive efficiency numbers, similar to the Irv Smith discussion earlier. So someone that should see an increase in targets this year, increase in team pass volume. He's someone I'm definitely targeting. I think you got a good value there.
Yeah, I was definitely happy with it.
So next we have another pick that another receiver with some size, Dyami Brown. I know some people have been talking about him more as draft Twitter picks up and we get closer to the draft. So I was curious on your thoughts here, Foz, on what led you to select Dyami Brown.
I'm in love. I like, he's one of these like guys I fell in love watching the film. Like, I know he didn't run well at his pro day. He ran 4.45 at his pro day, so it probably skews a little more slow. Middle of the pack, like athleticism, but he does have some size at 6'1", 185. Decent breakout age at 19 in his sophomore year. He had 90 targets both years in sophomore and junior year, 2019 20, and had over 20 yards per reception each year. How did North Carolina just like not win every game, by the way, with like all these players like Carter and Williams and Brown, like crazy? Their O-line and QB must be terrible. But college production, film checks out. I was very excited to draft him. And again, it was at this point where, want to go young with wide receivers on this team. And my wide receiver room is not really like, too dynamic other than Rondale Moore. He's a stud. He's the man. But I don't know. It was one of those guys. I was watching film trying to figure out who to pick, and I was like, all right, Dyami Brown's it. Like, liked him over Amon-Ra St. Brown. Liked him over. Let me get the list real quick over some of these other receivers here, like Nico Collins and Amari Rogers and Eskridge. I liked him over all those guys. So it seemed like the time to pull the trigger. And I didn't know Corey Davis had a team when I made that pick.
Yeah, I like it. I was watching a good video of him roasting one of the first round or projected corners, AJ Terrell, on Twitter, and he's definitely a pretty fun downfield playmaker. So hopefully he goes somewhere where he'll get some opportunity right away.
Did you say that he averaged 20 yards per catch in the last 2 seasons?
Yeah, each of the last 2 seasons. Yeah,
Each
20
of them, yeah.
What?
Each of them.
Each of them. Yep.
Yeah. So it'll be fun to watch.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then Jonnu Smith, when he first signed in New England, I think everyone was really excited for his value, at least more than they were in Tennessee. Contract was expected to be tight end, but New England has a history, of course, of using 2 full-time tight ends. Do you prefer? I guess this is a question to me. Do I believe? The question here with Jonnu is, do I believe he'll be a full-time tight end, still see tight end 1 level opportunity, or will he kind of fade and be a relatively mid-tier tight end 2, sort of what he was last year? And to me, I think I took him before Hunter Henry signed. So I was a little disappointed to see Hunter Henry sign with the Patriots, but I'm pretty confident that with the receivers they have, Jonnu will still see plenty of opportunity, especially with the money he got. I'm excited for the Patriots offense, honestly. I think Cam will be better this year with some real weapons, and I'm hoping Bill somehow finds a way to trade up for Justin Fields or get Deshaun Watson. That would just be amazing. But they paid the guy a lot of money. Jonnu's been efficient year after year, and again, just hasn't seen a lot of opportunity. Kind of like that Titans offense, just relatively low volume, not a lot of passing volume. So hopefully things shift a little bit there in the usage for Jonnu.
I think so. I think it's a good looking signing for the Patriots. I think you will have a high floor. There's this dude I follow on Twitter that does a lot of I can't remember his handle. I'd plug him, but he does a lot of Patriots film breakdowns, and he broke down a lot of the Hernandez and Gronk stuff when they were both on the team after Hunter Henry and Smith signed, and they used Hernandez quite a bit in the backfield, just like flaring him out and having Gronk line up on the outside. They'd have Gronk run like a little like curl route, and Hernandez would flare out, and they throw to Hernandez, and then you have a prime athlete in space with the ball in his hands. And you know how everyone makes a huge deal about running back pass catching. If you put Jonnu Smith in that situation with space, he's elite after the catch. So I anticipate Belichick to do that a lot, just as he did with Hernandez back, in the good days.
Right. And Jonnu, number 11 among all tight ends in yards after the catch last year. And he only had, where was it? He only had 41 receptions, which was number 20 among all tight ends. So
wild.
Pretty impressive there.
Yeah. I'm in. I'm in.
I don't think the Patriots offense is going to be the Hernandez Gronk offense. So I do think we need to temper our expectations a little bit,
right.
But it still should be a successful scheme.
Right. And Jonnu's young, and they're going to get a quarterback for the future sooner or later, whether it's this year or the next couple of years. So I think Jonnu's.
We had one a couple of years ago, Tom Brady, and they just decided to let him go. Could have had him for another 3 or 4 years, and he's gone.
Yeah. Let's not talk about that.
All right. Round 13.
Hold on. I have one guy I want to talk about real quick. So the leader in rushing in the SEC for 2019 is, I drafted him on John 2, Kylin Hill. He led the SEC in rushing in 2019, and with, what did he have? 1,350 yards out of Mississippi State. That was his junior year. His sophomore year, he had 730 yards. His senior year, he only played in 3 games and then opted out. In those 3 games, he had 58 rushing yards. But what stood out is he had 23 receptions for 240 yards, or 237. So even though he wasn't able to show his rushing ability in those 3 games this year, he showcased a part of his game that hadn't really been shown too much in the previous years, which I think is going to help his draft stock. He's a guy I am much higher on than anyone else I've seen online. I think he does offer a 3-down skill set. He's 5'11", 210. He's had a breakout junior year. I want to see him land in a good spot, and then I'll be really in on him. But I think he has what it takes to be a successful back, and I'm hoping that some NFL team saw this as well and weren't scared away by his low rushing yards in his senior year. So that's all I wanted to talk about.
Yeah. Oh, and I do want to just say, I think the Mike Williams value is really nice here. I thought this when I took him, but the Chargers just got rid of Hunter Henry. The only other receiver of consequence there is Keenan Allen. I think the Chargers are likely to draft Penei Sewell if he's there, and Herbert is obviously a stud. People have just completely written off Mike Williams at this point. He didn't really do a lot last year, 700 yards, 5 touchdowns, but he was dealing with a back injury off and on. But I do think for a guy that's probably going to play the majority of snaps and be a starter opposite of Keenan Allen, on an offense that's going to throw the ball a lot, I think Mike Williams is a really good value, regardless of whether you think he can still be, that dude on an offense. I don't think he can, but I think he's going to be a usable wide receiver 3-4 at worst this year with upside for more, given all that opportunity.
I want to make one last final note in this round. Thor 2 with by far, and even still with the rounds you guys have not seen so yet, Duke Johnson, the single worst pick of this mock draft so far, including the rounds y'all don't know yet. Brutal. And I'm a Duke Johnson guy. I always have a candle lit for Duke Johnson.
All right.
Not in the 12th round of a dynasty startup, my friend.
So with that, we're jumping into round 13, and you can see we went a variety of guys here. Definitely a little bit of a tight end run towards the end, but the first guy that stuck out to me, and perhaps not so much now with Kenny Galladay signing, is Sterling Shepard. I've always liked him. I think he's a viable slot receiver, but I think worst case you get a wide receiver 4 here. I think the Giants offense will look better with Kenny Galladay, a better and more stable offensive line. Hopefully a little further development from Daniel Jones, and of course the return of Saquon. I know Foz wanted that giant stack. Saquon.
Right, so no one gets exposure to bad offenses like I do. I'm the king of that.
Yep, and you say that every year. So you're not going to draft guys in bad offenses, and here we are.
Every year. I also have 2 Indianapolis Colts receivers on that team. This is the worst team ever, and I guarantee Hubert, Gainwell, or Carter will get drafted by like the Giants or something, or the Colts, and I'll be stuck with like so much overexposure. It'd be funny.
Yeah.
And then I have the Washington football team top target too. So everything's looking up for Foz 1.
Right. So someone else that really stuck out to me in this round, another receiver, was Mecole Hardman, John 2. The Chiefs haven't signed really another receiver behind Hill after Watkins walked. So what was your thought here? I think it's a good value. Hasn't really shown much yet.
Yeah,
but he hasn't also had a ton of opportunity either. So
see, I disagree with that though. I feel like the Chiefs, like he's had opportunity on the Chiefs. Like, why are they giving targets to Byron Pringle when Sammy Watkins is out? You know what I mean? Tyreek Hill hasn't been a bash NFL either since Mecole Hardman's gotten in the league. He's had 2 years. I feel like I expected more out of Mecole Hardman. And I feel like a lot of people expected more out of Mecole Hardman. And I feel like this kind of might be his level we're seeing. I think this might be, where he is.
Yeah. Yeah. So rookie year, 538 receiving yards. Second year, 560. So that probably is where he is. But
yeah,
that offense, and with it clearing out and them being up against, maybe not up against the cap, but they're going to be in some trouble. And it's going to be difficult for them to bring in other wide receivers. There were wide receivers that were rumored to go there that decided to not go there. So I mean, Mecole is the wide receiver 2 on that team, probably the third or fourth target in that receiving game. He still has 2 years on his rookie deal too, so he's a cost-controlled guy for that team. So I do like him. I think that he's probably not much more than where he is, but he felt worth that risk at this point in the draft. There's not many wide receivers that have much more upside.
Yep, I agree, and I think Fafá said if you're playing with Patrick Mahomes, like I just don't understand if you're playing 60% of the snaps, how you don't do a little bit more. And there were a handful of weeks last year. I'm counting 6 weeks where he played over 60% of the snaps, or about 60, and just nothing to write home about in any of them except one game where he popped a little bit. So I'm skeptical of him. I think the Chiefs could easily draft someone. Clearly they almost signed Juju, so I think they don't view him as a long-term number 2 or anything, but more as a situational guy personally. But it could end up being a good value. Maybe he develops. We shouldn't write guys off with that. So there could be some opportunity there.
He's a guy I will have no problem not drafting in all formats.
Yeah, I generally agree with that too. I'll let someone else draft him earlier, but seeing him slip to 13 and him being so young and in that offense felt like a little bit of a value on him.
And speaking of stud quarterbacks, teams with good passing offenses, we jump into arguably the top 2 dynasty quarterbacks, both taken in this round: Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields.
Dynasty rookie quarterbacks.
Dynasty rookies, right? Maybe that's shifted a little bit with Trey Lance and Zach Wilson jumping up draft boards. I think these are still my 1 and 2, but I wanted to give. Let's see who took them.
I took Fields.
You took Lawrence.
I took Lawrence first, and then you took Fields right after. Foz, what's the case for Justin Fields?
There is no excuse for Justin Fields not to be the second quarterback drafted this year in the NFL draft. No excuse. I don't know what more you could ask of the kid to do. He went to Ohio State and was expected, transferred to Ohio State, was expected to produce with the elite talent that was there against Big Ten competition, and he did. Went into the college football playoff this year and absolutely torched Clemson with broken ribs the whole time. Like, I don't get this whole, it's this, he's going to be a great football player. Like, he's going to be a great football player. He does things, like, he can make all the throws. He's mobile, and all this first read BS and that's all just not true. Like, the PFF stats, he's the best quarterback going to his second read that is coming out this year. So I don't know what, this is just this is one of my things. I'm a big draft guy, and this is one of my things. I follow the draft very closely. And this time of year, the last 2 months after the Super Bowl, before the draft, you have all these people that just put mock drafts out and write narratives and stories about other players to make them move up or move down just to get clicks and stuff. And that's what we're seeing with Zach Wilson. All right. That's what we're seeing with Trey Lance. All right. Justin Fields is the dude. All right. Whatever team he goes to, whether it's the Broncos, the Patriots, it's not going to be the Jets because they're dumb. Whoever they go, or San Francisco, Justin Fields is going to be a good NFL quarterback, and you have to draft him. I've drafted him to pair him with Jalen Hurts in case the Jalen Hurts bubble bursts and he turns out he can't throw the ball, because there's a possibility he's not an NFL passing quarterback from what we've seen so far. Justin Fields is going to be an NFL passing quarterback and will be successful in this league.
Well put. I agree with everything there, and I think it's a little bit of racism, to be honest with you.
Absolutely. Zach Wilson. Who's Zach Wilson play? Zach Wilson, best team to play, Coastal Carolina. He got to play UMass twice in his career. What are we talking about here? Justin Fields.
Pro day. Did you see the pro day throw across his body 60 yards downfield?
I can't believe it.
He's gonna be a stud.
Oh my.
Also, don't talk down to UMass, elite college football program.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'll never understand the fascination with quarterbacks who look good in shorts at their pro days. Why that vaults players up draft boards. It's just inexplicable. But it happens every year. So,
yep.
Like Zach Wilson played marginally better competition than Trey Lance, like marginally better. Like it's unreal.
Yeah, and then the case for Trevor Lawrence is pretty obvious. Some rushing ability and one of the best college quarterback prospects since Andrew Luck. I think he goes into a pretty favorable situation too in Jacksonville, where the defense is terrible. He should be able to throw a ton, develop. They do need to add some weapons around, DJ Chark. They do have a nice young offensive line that should grow and gel together. So I'm excited for him. I think he's fine there as my QB1. Obviously, I'll look to take another veteran quarterback in the rounds ahead, but I should have no problem getting that.
Yes, and just to be clear on my Fields love, I love Fields, but I was planning to draft Lawrence at that spot, and you drafted Lawrence like the pick before. So like I would, but Lawrence is still the pick over Fields.
Right. I think
with Urban Meyer in Jacksonville, like Jacksonville's got tons of draft capital to build around him this year. So we're, that's a good pick.
Agreed. Thank you. Now Evan Engram, the Giants did sign Kyle Rudolph. Engram had a terrible season last year, but the Giants were a mess. It's hard to take anything last year too seriously from them. But they did also add Kenny Golladay. Personally, I was happy with the value here with him. Getting him in an area where people were drafting Pat Freiermuth and Adam Troutman. I think Evan Engram had a good rookie season and was reasonably productive when given the opportunity, but there's no question he was really bad last year. But I think it was a good buy low spot for Evan Engram. What do you guys say?
I do too. I like it, especially with the Pitts pick earlier in the draft too. That's good. A good spot to kind of double up there and solidify that tight end position with two very high upside athletic tight ends.
Yep. Fully agree.
Yep. All right. Any other final thoughts on this round? Anybody else worth talking about that you guys see?
No.
I'm good to move on.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. So round 14.
Round 14.
Wow. All right.
Yeah, definitely some names in here that are getting a little bit of reach. And obviously at this point in a dynasty draft, just a general note, I've done draft, like I said, I did a few drafts the last over 5 years ago, and you'll be lucky to even have like two guys between rounds 11 and 20 still on your team in a few years. So if you're able to get someone that still has value, that's almost like hitting the lottery. But definitely a few guys here I think that have value and are interesting. Kadarius Toney is someone that I've seen people talk about a bit more. What was the thought process here? Foz, I know you've got a few rookie wide receivers on that team. Does that scare you at all, or are you happy with getting him where you did?
Yeah, it's a lot of rookies. But I'm happy with Toney there. When I was looking at the other, NFL established wide receivers out there, you see him in this round with Tyler Johnson and N'Keal Harry went, this round as well. I would much rather have Kadarius Toney over both of those players, and also over Seth Williams, too. So I feel like I got value in the round with Kadarius Toney, and just like his college stats don't jump out at you until this year, where Trask had a good year, and the Florida offense as a whole was pretty good. So he had a late college breakout, but he tested really well. He's an elite plus athlete. He's an elite athlete. Sub 4.4 pro day 40. So take that for what it's worth. 96 percentile burst score. And he's not, entirely. He's not tiny too. He's not like a Rondell Moore, like 5'7" guy. He's 5'11", 193. So he's got decent size too for him. So I feel like he's a guy that film checks out, metrics check out. You get him in the right situation, he should produce. As much as some of these other guys went, like these Mecole Hardmans and Darnell Mooney's, like N'Keal Harry's, like Kadarius Toney can easily hit that type of value.
Yeah.
Yep, I agree. And he actually ran a 4.38 at his pro day at, someone's celebrating spring here with some fireworks. The dogs aren't happy about that. But yeah, I like the size and speed on Toney. I think he's an interesting prospect. And Florida's had a weird offense the last few years. And Like you said, Trask had a good year, and Toney, I mean, late breakout, but it happened, and he was good, so that matters.
Yes.
Yep.
And then I guess another former first round pick, wide receiver that we thought was going to be good. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on N'Keal Harry. I'm again, like, we're getting to a tough point in the draft where we're just hoping to have a guy with some upside. Maybe N'Keal Harry needs to go to another team. I don't really see him thriving in the current New England system anytime soon, or being fantasy viable. But he has size. He was a really good college prospect, and people seem to be writing him off. Perhaps justifiably so. But I don't think he's really had an opportunity to showcase what he can do. Still relatively young. Do you guys have any thoughts on Harry, or is he a bust?
I think he needs to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
I don't think that he's going to recover from the past few years in New England. So, even if he does like start flashing, like the volume in this offense is going to be so low. It was going to be low anyway, even with him as the first or second option. But now with Bourne and Aguilar. New Smith, like now he's like really down the list on the pecking order for sure. Yeah.
So like that's a very low volume play. So if you get any value out of this pick, it will definitely be with another team.
Right. Hopefully the Packers will trade like a future 5th round pick for him or something. That would be really nice. And he's still, like I said, 23 years old. Will be 23 when the season starts. So I think he's worth a pick at this point in the draft.
Definitely.
And we're getting again, we had a big tight end run at the end of round 14 that sort of continued into the start of, or I'm sorry, the end of round 13 that sort of continued into the start of round 14, where we had Austin Hooper, who was the highest paid tight end in the league for a hot minute, followed up by Bobby Tonyan of the Packers, who had a solid season there with Aaron Rodgers, and finally broke out a little bit there. John, would you have taken Hooper if he was there, or would you have stuck with Tonyan?
I picked Tonyan over Hooper. It went the other way.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So I know Tonyan's numbers or his fantasy value last year was really bumped up by his touchdowns. He had 11 touchdowns last year, which probably doesn't happen again. But he's 27 and he's still well within his tight end like success window. So he's my second tight end on this team, with Waller also being not quite a risk, but I wanted to have another veteran type of tight end on this team, and Tonyan's upside with Rodgers felt like a really good pick here.
I agree. I think I would have taken Tonyan over Hooper if he was there. Number 3 yards per target last year, number 7 in yards per route run. Packers haven't added another receiver. I think a tight end 1 season is very, very likely this year from him.
And he was the tight end 3 in half PPR last season, based on what I'm seeing.
I don't. Oh yeah, I'm seeing tight end. Okay, yep. I think you're right. With all the touchdowns, he was number 5 in PPR. So yeah, I mean, I think we were a little late on him. Honestly, that's a really good value there.
Again, I don't see him repeating a tight end 3 season.
Right.
But if I can get tight end 9, that's fine with me.
Right.
At this point in the draft.
But I would have taken him over Pat Freiermuth, Troutman, Brevin Jordan, those kind of guys, I think.
Yeah, so I took the 2 rookies in the last rounds, and I wanted to get young tight ends. I knew there's still actually some decent value tight ends coming up later in the draft, so I knew that I wanted to get younger tight ends on those teams since I waited so long. So that's why I knew that those guys wouldn't be successful right away, but I knew I'd be able to get a veteran that would be able to put close to, or if not, tight end 1 numbers next year.
Fair enough. Anyone else in this round that sticks out to you guys as a good value or a terrible pick?
I just my fall's one team with DJ Dallas. Just like I just can't find like I feel like I'm throwing dots with that team and just hopefully they stick.
Yeah, I mean, they gave him, I mean, to his defense, just quickly, like they did give him a full workload a couple games last year. So, um,
Yeah.
Carson, Penny haven't been very healthy. Maybe they like him a little more than we know. So,
Yeah. Also, a couple real quick. Sony Michel was like sneaky efficient in his like little work he got last year when he was healthy. So he may be primed for like a post hype breakout in a high volume running offense. And then Trey Sermon actually tested way better at his pro day than people anticipated. So like he might be one of these like late round rookie draft running backs you may be able to hit on, like if he goes to like the right situation.
when you say he tested well, I'm seeing you ran a 4.6 40. Did have some nice burst metrics, but I do like Trey Sermon in general. But I'm not in love with
the 40 doesn't really concern me with Sermon, as long as he can like get through the hole, like with that burst score. That burst score is what stuck out.
Yep. All right. Fair enough. So with that, let's jump into round 15.
Round 15.
Keep the ball moving.
Yep. All right, so it looks like the first couple of comments are about my running back picks. So John 1, I took Todd Gurley. So again, this team is the same one that had James Conner, and I'm going to use the same exact explanation for Todd Gurley. He has been successful in the past. He's not currently on a team. He is a guy that I really don't think is going to get signed prior to camp. I don't see it happening. I think he is a during camp injury signing depth play. I don't think he's going to be the starter on any team. But
I could have sworn he tweeted that he was like about to sign like a couple of weeks ago, but I don't think he has.
I didn't see anything. I don't know.
Yeah. So maybe, yeah, but I think you're right there. And then I saw you take Anthony McFarland, who, right now kind of projects fairly well for the Steelers.
Yeah. So in that backfield right now, Benny Snell, Jalen Samuels, and they brought in Kalen Ballage. So it's not really a full room. They are going to bring in, or not a super talented room at least. They are probably going to draft an early running back. So this McFarland pick might not be that great, but I mean, he could be. He could be the starter, or at least
he could be good. He could not be good. Who knows?
He could be good. He might not be. But round 15.
Right. Exactly.
I was okay with it.
He's someone that could fill in for you a few weeks in the year where he's a usable RB2.
Yeah.
And at this point in the draft, if you get that for a few weeks, that's valuable.
Yeah.
And I did want to just add, I had a note there about Todd Gurley, as a cautionary tale for dynasty leaguers with running backs. It's him specifically was a little bit of a fluky example with the knee, decaying knee, arthritic knee that he just fell apart earlier than he should have. But when you're in dynasty and you have these running backs in their prime, like a Derrick Henry, for example, or a Nick Chubb, or an Ezekiel Elliott, who are going into the parts of their second contracts, I'm always looking to, I'm not necessarily shopping them, but I'm always looking to sell, see if I can get top value for those guys. If you're a contender, the calculus shifts a little bit. But if you're able to unload a Nick Chubb or a Derrick Henry and get, 2 future first rounders and a player, personally, I'm usually the one to pull the trigger on that deal. I don't want to be left holding the bag with Todd Gurley, and just, kill my team where I could have had 2 future first rounders. Running backs are, by their nature, just very fragile in dynasty.
Yeah. In the league we all play in, I drafted Todd Gurley in the round 2 of the startup, I think, maybe round 1, I don't remember. But then I traded him for a first and Mark Andrews after the 2019 season, when I realized I was not going to be a contender in 2020. So, or maybe it was even during the 2019 season. because that pick turned into the 104. So I knew I wasn't going to be contending, so I traded him because I knew that he was getting close to that age cliff, and there was injury concerns starting to sprout. So just be aware when you have those top tier running backs, when they're aging, you need to evaluate your team.
Right. And those examples are countless throughout history. You can go back and look at Eddie Lacy, Ray Rice. It's a cliff, and it happens really fast, and their value will just disappear. So if you're not a contender, I would always advise selling those stud running backs as they age. Another veteran who I am pretty high on this year and had a really strong season last year is Logan Thomas, especially with the addition of Ryan Fitzpatrick in Washington. I love this pick, John. I thought it was a perfect pair with a young tight end like Pat Freiermuth. But I'll let you talk about him quick.
Yeah. So, I mean, tight end 6 in half PPR, 110 targets, 72 receptions for 6 touchdowns last year and 670 yards. So nice little 6-year breakout at the tight end position. And again, he's the veteran that I was targeting to fill in after Pat Freiermuth. So I was really happy that he did fall. And I think that he has so much upside this season. I just can't wait. And especially with there being 2 really good field stretching receivers on that team now. I think that middle of the field, those short intermediate routes will be more open for him. So I'm excited.
Yep.
That's a great pick. I was a fan of that pick as well.
Yep. Anyone else here in this round that caught your eye? Foz, I know it must have hurt to take Zach Wilson here, given your rant earlier, but
it's just like, I'm sure he'll be fine. Like, it's not like he sucks. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but like, it's just like the whole like Justin Fields hate and like the Zach Wilson love is just over the top, and it's not like even close to being real. Zach Wilson pick was just to shore up the Lamar Jackson thing. If again, like all of a sudden his rushing ability deteriorates as he takes more hits in the NFL, entering year 4 to year 5. And then if Zach Wilson is elite, it gives me, a lot of trade value, with a quarterback. The pick I really liked in this round for myself though was Elijah Mitchell. I mean, he small school running back, University Lafayette, Louisiana Lafayette Raging Cajuns. Like plus athlete, like his best comparable and player profiler is Jerick McKinnon. So it's always good for a running back. We hope he has better health than Jerick McKinnon. But late round, late round in your rookie drafts, Elijah Mitchell, prime athlete, gotta get him.
I don't know if late draft is late rounds. Let's see.
Well, he's a 10th. The rankings I'm looking at, he's the 8th running back.
Yeah, so I guess second or early.
Yeah,
could happen.
They're saying like he's like he's still in that like higher. If you're getting to that running back tier where there is like those Kylin Hills and things that, or like in your rookie draft, people start taking quarterbacks or like these like second tier wide receivers, and Elijah Mitchell's still there. You got to push the button on Elijah Mitchell.
Yep.
Yeah.
Overall, where is he on the overall ranks? Yeah, 24th. Like I take him. He's below Nico Collins and Anthony Schwartz, and I would definitely take him above those 2.
I like it. And the fact that he was a college workhorse makes me optimistic about him seeing a larger workload in the pros.
Oh yeah, over 140 carries each of the last 3 years.
Yep.
Yeah. All right.
So with that, I think we can jump into round 16.
So round 16. So I think, do we want to just bring up one person in each of these rounds each?
Sure.
So at this point in the draft, we've really filled out our starting rosters. We've added our depth pieces for the most part, and now we're kind of even more just trying to catch lightning in a bottle. So these are all deeper guys. The majority of these might not even be on your team in a year and a half, 2 years. So you're just trying to get upside immediately with these late picks, in my opinion. I don't know if you guys kind of treat them the same.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'll go first with Nico Collins, because he's my Michigan dude. Was an absolute monster in 2019 in Michigan in the red zone. He like slimmed down to 215. So at 6, he's one of the bigger receivers in this class too at 6'4", and ran a 4.45 at his pro day at Michigan. So that type of size and that type of speed is kind of unique in this draft with these wide receivers. So to get someone like Nico Collins this late in round 16 just was like a boon. Like I was so happy to get Nico Collins right here, around all these other receivers, especially because a lot of you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rookie receivers went in round 16. Nico Collins would be my pick of all of those.
Well, so I'll go with Anthony Schwartz is my pick out of all of those rookie wide receivers. He ran a 4.3. His breakout age 20, so a little on the older side, but his speed shows in his film. When I was watching him, he just really stands out as incredibly fast. So 4.3240, his speed score 105, 83rd percentile. So 6 foot, 186 pounds. Played for Auburn. Looking forward to seeing him play in the pros, and I think that he is going to be a value in your rookie drafts.
Yeah,
I've already
he had bad
heard
quarterback play. Bad quarterback play at Auburn the last 2 years too, with Bo Nix. Like very bad quarterback play. So he should be good in the NFL.
His best comparable is Curtis Samuel. So if we get anywhere near there, I'm happy.
Right.
Yeah.
And NFL draft Twitter has already compared him to Tyreek Hill a handful of times as well. So lofty expectations.
That's a bit high. All right. Thor, you got one?
Andy Isabel.
Andy Isabel. The pick I liked here was my Thor 4, Nelson Aguilar. I know we've talked about the Patriots and they added 2 tight ends. But again, I expect them to make a move for a longer term quarterback sooner rather than later. And the Patriots paid Aguilar to be their number 1 guy, and in whatever his year 5 breakout finally happened, and he was number 2 in the NFL in yards per reception last year. He was really good in a pretty mediocre Raiders offense. Really efficient too with his touches. I think the Patriots probably overpaid him a little bit, but that hopefully will mean that he'll see more opportunity. And in round 16, if he's a viable starter for even a few weeks this year, I'll be pretty happy.
Yeah. All right, round.
Real quick, Lamichael Pirline, the starter on the Jets right now, whether you like it or not.
It's fair. That's
getting
fair.
That value at 16.
That's true. That's actually not a bad value at all.
Yeah.
So round 17, Foz, who's your favorite pick here?
Oh man. Honestly, like probably not. Probably none of them. Jamison Crowder actually on that Foz 3 team, adding some veteran depth, like low floor, like high floor targets to that team. That's probably my favorite pick there, for sure.
So for me, I like my Cole Kmet pick. Paired him with Dallas Goedert. Cole Kmet, I think he's the top tight end on the Bears now. So if they move on from Anthony Miller, which seems like that's more like it's closer to happening, so that middle of the field is getting open. I'm sure they'll bring in someone to replace that slot area, but Cole Kmet, really happy with that.
Yep. I agree. I like the Cole Kmet pick. It was tough here. I had to go. I think I'm going to go Stafford though. He'll be on my team for a while. He's still in his quarterback prime, only 32, 33. And I love the pairing of him with, what's his name? What's the coach's name? No, what's the coach's name?
McVay.
John McVay. I think McVay is going to use Stafford in the way that Stafford can be used. Like the offense opens up more. Love Cup, Woods there. I think that offense is going to take a step forward from where we've seen it in years past with Goff. And I think he has at least, 4, 5, 6 more good quarterback years there. So I'm excited to see him develop, and it was a good pair with young Trevor Lawrence and Tannehill, who can be, I can play the matchup with those two, Tannehill and Stafford.
Yeah. All right. Round 18.
Foz, what did you like here?
Give me honestly, like all of them except Jared Cook. Lazard, I feel like is in a good spot as like, Aaron Rodgers number 2, unless the Packers add someone, which who knows. And Lazard has Aaron Rodgers' trust, so that's always huge. Boston Scott at the other end of the round. Still that, volatile Philadelphia Eagles backfield, right? Like Miles Sanders is there, and then there's not really much else. So Boston Scott, why not? Right? Who's the other guy? Oh, James White. Kind of being slept on. Patriots offense again. Damian Harris and Sony Michel, not pass catchers. And as if that offense does take a step forward, James White will be a part of that as not a lot of upside, but definitely a high forward. Running back bye week fill-in.
Yeah. So for me, I like my Kiki Cutie pick. I know that they brought in a bunch of guys during free agency. I would guess that a bunch of Chris Conley, Alex Erickson. I know Conley is really fast. Andre Roberts, they brought him in for special teams. Alex Erickson, also, I feel like they brought him in for special teams, so I'm not really sure. But I think he's the number 2 for whatever quarterback is playing there. Maybe the number 3, depend some weeks, but I think it was worth the risk. I like him. I think he's a decent value at this spot.
I agree. They also brought in Dante Moncrief. It's actually just like comical the number of like guys that you would have been like excited about 3 years ago that they signed, like just 3 years too late.
Yeah.
But I agree. I like the QT pick. Good slot receiver. I think he could be usable this year. For sure. I like the Wentz pick, honestly. I think he's going to thrive with Reich in the Colts system. They need to add wide receiver depth, but I'm excited to see him hopefully vault back up into that low end QB1 tier that he was in just a little bit over a year ago. Great offensive line, great system. I'm excited for him.
Yeah. All right. So round 19, we only have a couple minutes left. So we actually didn't make our final 3 picks. So I think that's what we should do here. We have 3 minutes left on this, on the timer here. So Thor, you're on the clock.
All right. Give me a second. What do we have here? Thor 4. I'm a contender. We got lots of good value. Oh, by the way, Rashad Penny, I think he's going to be a starter this year at some point for a few weeks. Anyway, sorry. Just looking at my team. I actually really like this team. I think there's a lot of guys. I really like that I got Gus Edwards and Penny. I think both of them could have value this season. And I forget. I don't even remember Larry Roundtree. I think that was a reach. Hang on. I gotta pull up some rankings.
All right, you got to move.
Oh my God, we're gonna run out of time.
All right, Foz, you got one in mind? I got one.
Go ahead. You guys go ahead.
Oh man, we're gonna draft out of order here. All right, give me
But if I want your guy, I'm gonna revoke your pick.
All right, give me Jacoby Myers.
Ooh, I like that pick actually.
Patriots wide receiver, potentially their number 1.
Yeah. Julian Edelman's like not going to play this year either. So,
yep, I like the pick.
I like that pick a lot.
All right,
John?
I think Thor, you got one, or you want me to go?
You go ahead.
All right, Ito Smith.
Ooh.
Falcons are going to draft a running back, but they don't have anyone that's really of consequence except for Mike Davis. So, give me Ito Smith.
Yeah.
All right, Thor, we got under a minute here. What do we got?
All right. I think I'm going to go Devontae Booker, backup for Saquon. They paid him solid backup running back money. I like the way the Giants offense is headed. If something happens to Saquon, he'll be usable RB2.
Yeah.
All right. Sweet.
Yeah. So thank you guys for joining us. Are we going to be completing round 20, or is this the end of the
That's it. That's this round or this draft. We're done with it.
All right, we're done with it. I think we'll probably be back with some more strategy Dynasty talk and discussion about different topics as the offseason goes along, and definitely some rookie talk as the NFL draft approaches and after the NFL draft happens. So be on the lookout for that. And for John and John, we're signing out.